On the World News on Independent Television, U.S. Congress certifies Joe Biden and Kamala Harris election victory. Twitter and Facebook block U.S. President Donald Trump's account. And Oxford vaccine rollout to hundreds of GP sites in England. Good afternoon. It's great to have you join us on the World News on Independent Television. I'm Philip Omo-Gupon. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has said leaders across the world should look out not just for their own interest, but also that of the society. Dr. Jonathan made the statement while reacting to the violent protest and invasion of the U.S. Capitol in an attempt to block the transfer of power to Democrat Joe Biden. Former President Jonathan, who conceded defeat contested in 2014, said the purpose of leadership was to bring people together, not divide them. He said he has repeatedly emphasized that nobody's political ambition is worth the blood of any citizen in any part of the world. A Benin High Court has nullified the candidacy of the deputy governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the September 19, 2020 governorship election in the state, Gani Audu. The court, presided over by Justice H.A. Korejugbebo, by extension, also nullified the candidacy of the party's governorship candidate for the election, Pastor Osagie Yamu. In her judgment, Justice Korejugbebo held that the defendant, Malam Gani Audu, presented false information to INEC in his form EC9 to enable him contest the said election. She therefore nullified the ticket of Pastor Osagie Yamu and Gani Audu as the party's governorship and deputy governorship candidates in the September 19, 2020 election on the ground that their joint ticket was vitiated by reason of the false information presented to INEC by Malam Gani Audu. The plaintiff, Sunday Kadiri, had asked the court to disqualify Mr. Audu from participating in the election on the account of having given false information to INEC to aid his qualification for the election. Mr. Kadiri of the court to annul the candidacy of Pastor Osagie Yamu as the governorship candidate of the party on account of running with an unqualified candidate for deputy governor. Meanwhile, APC candidate in the September 19 Edo State governorship election, Pastor Osagie Yamu, says he has instructed his counsel to appeal against the High Court judgment disqualifying him and his running mate, Gani Audu, from contesting the election. Pastor Yamu, in a statement, said the judgment was unfortunate and utterly wrong. He expressed the hope that the Court of Appeal will dispassionately consider the facts presented before the court and arrive at a just decision in accordance with the law. APC governorship candidate urged all their teaming supporters to remain calm and law-abiding as justice will prevail in the matter. The Federal High Court in Abuja yesterday admitted in evidence the certificate of Governor Godwin Obaseki's third witness, Professor Egosa Osagai. Justice Ahmed Mohammed admitted the witness's Bachelor of Science degree certificate obtained from University of Ibadan in 1979 after his testimony. ITV Abuja correspondent Joseph Kadiri reports that the court adjourns hearing to today, 7th January, for adoption of final address.
The Wednesday's hearing in the alleged certificate forgery suit against the Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki filed by the All Progressives Congress (APC) begins with the presentation of Governor Obaseki's third witness, a professor of comparative politics at the University of Ibadan, Professor Egosa Osagai. The witness tendered the original copy of his Bachelor of Science degree certificate in political science awarded to him by the University of Ibadan on July 6, 1979. Under cross-examination by the APC counsel, Akin Olijimi SAN, the witness says that he is aware of the original size of certificate of University of Ibadan is bigger than an A4 paper size. That when an A4 paper is used to photocopy the certificate, all the information on the certificate will not be captured. That he has a personal experience until it is minimized. When he was shown the photocopy of Obaseki's certificate that was attached to the nomination form he submitted to the INEC, the witness says it is the same experience he had. The judge, Justice Ahmed Muhammad, admits the certificate in evidence as he adjourns the matter to Thursday, January 7th for adoption of final address. Counsel representing parties brief press after the adjournment.
Well, we had the last of the witnesses for the defense today, and then the defendants closed their cases. The court has now adjourned for the parties to file their written addresses, and we come back at 2 p.m. Tomorrow to adopt the written addresses. So that's the stage we are now. Well, as I always say, when you go to war, you want to win that war. So we came in prepared to do battle. We have done it. And we expect that we should win.
Well, we have closed our case. It was a deliberate decision on our part, having regard to the time left to the court for completion of the case. So the idea was to give the court enough room and give us enough time, at least a little bit of time, to prepare our respective addresses. Of course, my expectation and my hope is that my client will come up tops. That's what everybody who goes into a litigious situation hopes. So we also hope that with the evidence adduced, that at the end of the day, hopefully, victory will be ours, because I think we have done enough.
The hearing on the alleged certificate forgery suit is gradually coming to an end. Joseph Kadri, ITV News, Abuja.
The newly promoted officers of Edo State Police Command have been urged to intensify their efforts in ensuring protection of lives and property in the state. Edo State Police Commissioner Johnson Kokomo, newly promoted to the rank of Assistant Inspector General of Police, decorated the newly promoted officers. Crime correspondent Wellington Akodeja has details.
It was time to reward hard work and dedication to duty as the newly promoted officers stepped forward to be decorated with their new ranks. Edo State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Johnson Kokomo, who himself was wearing his new rank as Assistant Inspector General of Police, decorated the newly promoted officers. The joy of the affected officers knew no bounds as they wore their new ranks with pride. Those decorated include 3 Assistant Commissioner of Police: Amos Opado, Joseph Adeleke, Osayende Onagese. Others promoted from SP to CSP include Solomon Adeleye, Adewale Olumagba, Ayonla Ojo, Bamidele Adenola, Ayodele Suleiman, Moses Olarewaju, Albert Udume, Perewe Uwepo Rufus, Gideon Ozonu, and Chimeze Ukachuku. 1 person was promoted from ASP to DSP. Ebowe Florence. 2 persons were promoted from the rank of Inspector to ASP. For Banje, Tai, and Omontude Faith, they were charged to be alive to their responsibilities. Wellington Akodeja reporting.
Federal Capital Territory Administration has expressed displeasure over the activities of dispatch riders across the city. The Director, Department of Road Transport Services, FCTA, Wadata Budinga, expressed the displeasure during a parade over 50 dispatched motorcycles at the office of the agency. ITV Abuja correspondent Evie Egwari quotes the chairman FCT Ministerial Tax Team on Traffic Management, Ata Igaro, saying that penalties will be meted out on traffic
Following the ban of motorcycle operation in the city centers, dispatch riders upon certain conditions were allowed to operate. Over time, the administration, through its Department of Road Transport Services, says it has received complaints as well as observed the abuse of privileges of these dispatch riders, especially in breaking traffic rules.
Dispatch riders who are privileged motorcycles allowed to operate in the city are already abusing it extremely. If you see them most when you are driving and they're in your front, before the light shows green, even some minutes to amber light, even in the very red light, they just go ahead and cross, and that has become a source of worry, and the minister have been on.
Addressing the press during the parade, the Director, Department of Road Transport Services, Wadata Bodinga, says over 50 dispatch riders were arrested and will be penalized.
We have received a lot of complaints, and we have seen it too, because just within yesterday and today, over 50 motorcycle and dispatch riders, you have seen them. They have been arrested for various offenses of one way and beating the traffic light, because majorly they are the major culprit of this beating of traffic and doing one way in the city.
He said many of these riders are not registered.
The majority of them too are not even registered, not only registered now as motorcycles, because they are dispatched. We expected that most of these motorcycles should be owned by by an organization, corporate organizations. But from the records that we have, we realize that most of them are even just owned by individuals who just decided to put the box and started operation.
The chairman of City Ministerial Task Team on Traffic Management, Ata Ikaru, said the minister will henceforth no longer condone such activities.
So many vehicles were also involved, and they all, like what he says, will be going through psychiatric tests to check if they are mentally stable. Because if you see red, if you see danger, if you see barrier, and you still go ahead and put your head in barrier, then something is wrong with you or you are wrong with something.
Wadata explained that the administration will bear the cost of psychological evaluation, while the offenders will pay their penalties. Evi Egwari, ITV News, Abuja.
Nigeria has continued to witness a steady rise in the number of coronavirus cases, reporting its highest single-day tally for the third consecutive day. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control disclosed this in a late-night tweet on Wednesday, saying 1,664 more infections were reported in 24 hours. In its latest update on the disease, the NCDC, which is responsible for the management of disease outbreaks in Nigeria, stated that the new cases were confirmed in 22 states and the Federal Capital Territory. According to the NCDC, Lagos recorded 642, FCT got 407, Plateau had 160, Kaduna recorded 83, Rivers confirmed 62, Adamawa reported 47, Nasarawa has 38, Abia recorded 29, Edo reported 28, Anambra 27, while Niger and Ogun states have 24 cases each. Others are Imo 15, Oyo 14, Kano 12, Osun 12, Borno 9, Delta 7, Enugu 7, Bauchi 5, Ekiti 5, Sokoto 5, and Jigawa 2. The NCDC said 5 more fatalities were reported on Wednesday. Thousands of people have been locked outside of the offices of the National Identity Management Commission following a strike embarked on by NIMC staff. The notice of strike was signed by the president of the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria, NIMC branch, Lucky Michael, and his secretary, Odia Victor. According to a communique issued at the end of the Congress meeting of the Association NIMC branch, the strike became necessary due to the exposure of staff to COVID-19 risks, lack of personal protective equipment, irregularities in promotion, and poor funding. The Congress noted that staff members were infected with COVID-19 and adequate measures have not been taken to curtail the spread. The Nigeria Communications Commission had last month asked all telecoms firms to disconnect the SIM cards of all persons who have not integrated their national identity numbers with their phone lines by the end of January. Currently, over 100 million Nigerians are yet to do so, which has caused huge crowds to gather at the various offices of NIMC in breach of the COVID-19 protocol. You're watching the World News on Independent Television. Up ahead, U.S. Congress certifies Joe Biden and Kamala Harris election victory. Details after the break. Thank you for staying tuned. Moving on, the U.S. Congress has certified Joe Biden's victory in the presidential election hours after Trump supporters stormed the building in an attack that saw 4 people die. Lawmakers resumed the session after police managed to remove the mob, which had been encouraged by President Trump in a bid to overturn his defeat. Roslyn Evorame has details.
Words of a president matter. No matter how good or bad that president is. At their best, the words of a president can inspire. At their worst.
The certification clears the way for Mr. Biden to be sworn in on 20 January. Joe Biden's victory was confirmed today by a joint session presided over by Vice President Mike Pence, who said the violence had been a dark day in the history of the United States Capitol.
Today was a dark day in the history of the United States Capitol. But thanks to the swift efforts of U.S. Capitol Police, federal, state, and local law enforcement, the violence was quelled, the Capitol is secured, and the people's work continues. We condemn the violence that took place here in the strongest possible terms. We grieve the loss of life in these hallowed halls, as well as the injuries suffered by those who defended our Capitol today.
Wednesday, chaotic scenes followed months of escalating rhetoric around the 3 November election and culminated with the invasion of the Capitol. Mr. Biden described the development as rebellion on the part of Trump.
I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege.
Mr. Biden's victory was certified after objections by some Republican lawmakers to overturn the result in Arizona and Pennsylvania was rejected. Shortly afterwards, Mr. Trump, in a statement, said although he totally disagreed with the outcome of the election, there will be an orderly transition of power on January 20th. Roslyn Evorame reporting.
U.S. President Donald Trump has been suspended from Twitter and Facebook after tweeting to supporters who attacked the U.S. Capitol. In a social media message to protesters, President Trump expressed his love for the protesters before telling them to go home. U.S. President Donald Trump also repeated false claims about election fraud. Twitter said it required the removal of 3 tweets for severe violations of his civic integrity policy. The company said the president's account would remain locked for good if the tweets were not removed. It means Donald Trump's days on Twitter could be numbered. Facebook banned Mr. Trump for 24 hours, while YouTube also removed the video. Deputy National Security Advisor Matt Pottinger is the latest Trump official to reportedly resign. Citing resources close to Pottinger said He was dismayed by the attack on the Capitol and Trump's incitement of protesters. It follows after earlier reports that numerous other White House staff members also resigned following the chaos of the day. Among those who stepped down earlier are Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews, the Chief of Staff of First Lady Melania Trump, Stephanie Grisham, and White House Social Secretary Rick Nessetta. The Democratic Party of U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has won control of the Senate and of Congress overall with 2 victories in the state of Georgia. Rosalind Evorame reports that Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff defeated Republican incumbents Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, respectively, at the just concluded by-election held on Tuesday.
Democrats will now control the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the White House for the first time since 2009, following the victories of Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff in Tuesday by-election. An estimated 4 million Georgians turned out to vote in the runoff election. The result is a severe blow for outgoing Republican President Donald Trump. The Georgia result was rerun because none of the candidates in the November general election achieved the 50% needed for victory under state rules. Mr. Warnock, a Baptist pastor, becomes the first black senator for Georgia and the 11th black member of the Senate in U.S. history.
Georgia, I am honored by the faith that you have shown in me. And I promise you this tonight. I am going to the Senate to work for all of Georgia.
With the result in Georgia, the Democrats and the Republicans will now have 50 seats each in the Senate, the upper house of Congress. However, the incoming Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris will preside over the Senate once she takes office and will have the tie-breaking votes. This gives the Biden administration a greater chance of achieving its agenda on issues such as health care and climate change. Rosalind Evorame reporting.
The Oxford AstraZeneca COVID vaccine will be rolled out to hundreds of GP-run vaccination sites in local communities in England later today. As part of the biggest vaccination program in NHS history, the aim is to offer jabs to most care home residents by the end of January. By mid-February, the target is to vaccinate 13 million people in the top 4 priority groups. More than 700 local vaccination sites will administer the jabs. Another 180 GP-led sites, 100 new hospital sites, and a pilot scheme involving local pharmacies will open this week. It comes after the UK reported another 1,041 deaths within 28 days of a positive coronavirus test, the highest daily death toll since April, and 62,322 new cases were recorded on Wednesday, the highest daily rise since mass testing began. A millionaire French hotel owner is set to testify in court as part of the trial of 13 people accused of involvement in her kidnapping. The 80-year-old owner of the 5-star Grand Hotel in Cannes, Jacqueline Verac, was bundled into a van outside her home in Nice in October 2016. She was found bound and gagged in the vehicle by a passerby 2 days later. The suspects include an Italian restaurateur, a British former soldier, and a private detective. The accused were in the courtroom for the opening of the trial in Nice on Monday. Ms. Verac will testify today, and the proceedings are expected to continue until 29 January. 3 suspected gang members from Nice are accused of carrying out the kidnapping. And now talking sports, football. Enyimba Football Club yesterday defeated visiting Al Marek of Sudan 2 goals to 1 in his first round second leg encounter of the Confederation of African Football Champions League in Aba. Enyimba Football Club, tutored by coach Fatai Osho, dominated the encounter against Al Marek. On aggregate, Al Marek won 4 goals to 2. According to information made available to journalists, the 2 goals to 1 victory of Enyimba over the Sudanese team was not enough to take the Aba team to the group stage of the CAF Champions League competition. Eyimba FC drops to the lower CAF Confederation Cup competition. Turning to cricket, where opener Will Pucovski hit 62 on his much anticipated Test debut as Australia had the better of the opening day of the third Test against India. Highly rated 22-year-old Pucovski impressed until he was trapped by fellow debutant Navdeep Saini. Manus Labuschagne ended a rain-shortened day 67 not out in Sydney as Australia closed on 166-2. Steve Smith was 31 not out, his best call of the series, but David Warner fell for 5 on his injury return. He combined with Labuschagne in a stand of 100 after Warner edged the drive to first slip in the fourth over. Labuschagne added an unbroken 60 with Smith as both sides look to take the lead in a competitive 4-match series currently